What's up, weirdo? Shadetree Surgeon here, and today we're gonna piss a few people off, but hey, that ain't exactly new territory for me. I fully expect to meet my demise surrounded by an angry mob, probably while laughing at one of my own jokes, just like the old gypsy lady said it'd be. But until that fateful day when I shuffle off this mortal coil, don't forget to leave a like on this video and smash that subscribe button, and of course, there's a handy dandy comment section down below where you can leave any and all death threats. Now that we've got the pleasantries out of the way, let's go ahead and dive headfirst right into the shallow end. Today, we're going to list the top 5 motorcycles of all time, according to you. You see, this isn't going to be the kind of list that takes into account top speed or handling or peak horsepower numbers. And if you're that type of keyboard warrior nerd virgin who fights their battles in motorcycle forums online, dropping screen caps of spec sheets like atom bombs, then you know what? You're probably kind of missing the whole point anyway, at least in my opinion. Winning imaginary races online with the help of spec sheets is basically the motorcycle equivalent of playing Dungeons and Dragons. To me, anyway, motorcycles are so much more than numbers. They're so much more than the sum of their parts. Motorcycles are the promise of adventure and the thrill of danger. A great motorcycle should evoke emotions. It should goad you to take chances. It should inspire you to greatness. This is the most base and visceral bonding of man and machine. Mechanical poetry so achingly beautiful that we should weep to behold it. Now tell me, man, where do you even begin to have the audacity to think that you can weigh and measure that for a spec sheet? Whew, got a little carried away there, but like I said, motorcycles get my blood going. Now don't get me wrong, I'm sure that you could feed all the specs and facts and figures and data on every motorcycle ever made and put it into some sort of program and beep boop 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 beep, it spit out an answer for the best motorcycle ever made. But when you get into those upper echelons, when you get into the top tier of motorcycles, the best of the best. Honestly, the numbers are so freaking close on them, and the bikes themselves become pretty homogeneous. The easiest example is really just to take a look at the leader bike offerings from the big 4 Japanese companies. These bikes are the bleeding edge of technology. These companies' flagship motorcycles, amazingly powerful and capable, and there's about a bee's dick difference between all of them. So when it comes time to choose a modern race replica, it basically comes down to what's your favorite color, man? And all you soy boy super sport fans better start getting ready to cry into your Rossi replica leathers, because very tellingly, not a single modern super sport came even close to breaking into this list. And of course I'm picking on all the super sport guys, but to be totally honest, this same homogeny exists across the board whenever you get into top tier motorcycles, whether it be ADV bikes or touring bikes or what have you. When you get into the top levels, the bikes really start to become very, very similar. So let's get into this list. Like I said, these are the top 5 greatest motorcycles of all time, according to you. A few days ago, I made a post on Instagram and Facebook and asked all my followers to post their personal picks for the top 3 greatest motorcycles of all time. And I left the parameters of what greatness means up to them, and I ended up with answers that spanned well over 100 different models of motorcycles. But despite the disparity in all the answers that I received, there was still a very clear winner. And yes, of course, you could say that my audience is biased, but I'd really argue against that. I ride both a Triumph Rocket 3 and a Ducati Multistrada. I regularly race in hair scrambles on my KTM 300 XCW, and I'm in the process of building a custom Yamaha XS650. So while the 20,000 people who follow me on Instagram and Facebook definitely all have motorcycles in common, after that, their personal preferences are across the board. So I actually think it was a pretty good group to come up with these 5 bikes. Coming in at number 5, we have a bit of a tie. The Harley Davidson Softail and the Harley Davidson FXR both received the exact same number of votes. You see, the majority of the votes for the Softail were actually votes for the Harley Davidson Fat Boy, which is just a Softail. But thanks to old Arnie immortalizing the Fat Boy in Terminator 2, it'll always be more than just another Softail. If you count Fat Boy in its own category, separate from Softail, then the FXR is the clear winner for the 5th greatest motorcycle of all time. And it's hard to argue that it doesn't deserve to be on this list. The FXR was Harley Davidson's redheaded stepchild with a frame designed by Eric Buell. It was Harley Davidson's answer to the faster and better handling Japanese bikes of the time. Sure, some people still made choppers out of FXRs because Harley Davidson, of course they're going to, but you're just as likely to see one done up with proper suspension coming up and embarrassing the hell out of some unsuspecting sport bike rider in the twisties. During its run, the FXR was never truly accepted by the traditional Harley Davidson crowd, but it's not despite that. It's because of that black sheep status that the FXR is the icon that it is today. Coming in at number 4, and sure to piss off all those FXR guys out there, we have the motorcycle that Sons of Anarchy built, the Harley Davidson Dyna.
Right into this world.
Now, the Harley Dyna didn't start life as the Wheelie King club-style hipster machine that it is today. It was originally introduced as a replacement for the FXR. Remember how I said the FXR was never accepted by the traditional Harley Davidson crowd? Well, the Dyna was the answer to that, and it was supposed to be a more traditionally styled Harley that more people would buy, and it was cheaper to manufacture to boot. But over the years, the Dyna has come into its own and became an enthusiast choice of Harley Davidson's. Both the cheapest and the lightest big twin Harley Davidson that you can buy, with a cottage industry of aftermarket support that is unrivaled, the Dyna definitely deserves to be on this list. To try and deny Sons of Anarchy's influence on the popularity of this bike is just ridiculous, and you know what? It shouldn't matter anyway. Because anything that gets someone on 2 wheels, that's a good thing in my book. Coming in at number 3, we can finally take a break from the Harley Davidsons and look at a bike that changed the world. The Honda CB750. When I first posted this poll on Instagram, I originally thought that the Honda CB750 was going to take the number 1 spot, and if it had, I wouldn't be arguing. When it came out in the 1960s, the CB750 forever changed motorcycles, and it's the whole reason that modern 4-cylinder sport bikes exist today. They coined the term superbike literally to describe the CB750. That bike blew people's minds. And the reason for that was that 4-cylinder engine, because before the CB750, let me tell you, basically motorcycles sounded like this. Then all of a sudden the CB750 shows up and it sounds like this. I mean, it sounded like a goddamn F1 car or a Ferrari. I mean, it sounded exotic. It had 4 cylinders. It was unheard of at the time. It was fast as hell, it was super cheap, and it damn near put everybody else out of business. It 100% deserves its podium finish on this list, and in my opinion, just as easily could have taken the number 1 spot. And this brings us to the number 2 bike on the list, only losing to number 1 by a few votes, the Triumph Bonneville. Now, once again, depending on how you added up all the votes, the Triumph Bonneville could have lost to the CB750. Does the Triumph Thruxton count as a vote for the Bonneville? Do you separate votes for modern Bonnevilles and votes for classic Bonnevilles? If you started nitpicking on that level, the Bonneville could have easily fallen to 4th or 5th on the list. But luckily for all you Triumph fans out there, I'm a Triumph fan, and it's my goddamn video, so I lumped all the Bonnevilles together, and you guys can argue about it in the comment section. Either way, I think that most people would be hard-pressed to argue against it making a top 3 finish. The Triumph Bonneville is beyond iconic, and for many years was the number 1 choice for speed freaks, you know, until that Honda 750 anyway. Whether it be a chopper or a cafe racer or a scrambler or a flat tracker, the Bonneville did it all. The modern iteration of the Bonneville is a bit more narrowly focused and comes pre-packaged as one of the styles that I mentioned earlier, which in my mind really kind of stifles the creativity that made the original Bonneville so great to begin with, but that's just me, man. Those that know me will know that Triumph always has my heart, and I love the Bonneville, but even I have to admit that it always played second fiddle to the #1 bike on this list. I'm sure at this point you guys have already guessed it. The #1 greatest motorcycle of all time, as voted by you, winning by a veritable landslide, the humble Harley Davidson Sportster. And I can already hear people bitching about that right now, but hey man, I just added up the votes. Don't shoot the messenger. But honestly, I'm not surprised, and neither do I disagree with the Harley Sportster taking the #1 spot. This is a bike that has been in continuous production since 1957 and is easily one of the best-selling motorcycles of all time. The Sportster, it's 100 different bikes to 100 different people. It's a motorcycle that absolutely begs to be customized and makes it really easy. The Sportster comes as a blank slate, a motorcycle that's just oozing potential, waiting for you to customize it and make it into the bike that you want it to be. They're simple machines, what I would call an heirloom bike, a bike that can be used and thrown away certainly, but you can also make them run forever. I honestly don't really think that the Sportster was the #1 choice in the plethora of top 3 bike comments that it appeared in. But regardless of whether it was their #1 choice or not, people just couldn't leave it out of a top 3 list. Because no matter who you are, or where you live, or what kind of motorcycles you enjoy, it's near impossible to deny the amazing impact that the Harley Davidson Sportster has had on the world of motorcycles over the years. Is it my personal #1? No, not at all, man. But you know, I don't think I could make a top 5 list of greatest motorcycles and not have the Sportster on it. Just like a bad penny, the thing always shows up. So there you have it, the top 5 motorcycles of all time, according to you. And before I end this video, I definitely want to throw some honorable mentions out there. The Vincent Black Shadow received a number of votes, and for as old a bike as it is, and as short a time it was in production, it came very close to making the top 5. The Honda Cub, you know, it only received a few votes in the comments, but I think a very good argument could be made that it deserves to make any top 5 list when you're talking about greatest motorcycles of all time. There was all the colors of the rainbows when it came to the different super sports that got brought up in the comments, but if there was any clear winners, it was the Yamaha R1 R6 and the Suzuki GSXR. In adventure bikes, the BMW GS dominated, and to nobody's surprise, in touring bikes, the Road Glide was the favorite. Probably the biggest shocker to me personally was that the Honda Rebel 250 and the Kawasaki Ninja 250 didn't get more votes. Those two bikes have brought so many people into the world of motorcycles, and when you talk about greatest motorcycles of all time, I think that either of them could easily make a top 5 list. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. To be honest with you, I had a lot of fun making this one. If you liked it, be sure to let me know, because maybe I'll make another one like this, but a little more focused. In particular, I think maybe something like the greatest muscle bike of all time would be a really good one, since muscle bike is such a disparate category. If you're interested in that, make sure to follow me on Instagram. Links down in the description so you can participate in the voting. And of course, leave me your personal top 3 or top 5 or just top greatest motorcycle of all time in the comment section down below. I'll be interested to see how things shake down now that I've opened up the voting to a much wider audience. But I also think it's going to be tinged by me actually presenting the list. Looking at a top 5 list tends to really influence people's votes, which is why I did it on Instagram first with no lead up at all. Thanks for watching, guys, and till next time, keep it weird, y'all.